The Cretaceous was an arena of evolutionary extremes. Our subject, the dinosaur Ankylosaurus magniventris, an 8-ton geological fortress. It perfected a life of defense in the Hell Creek arena against the ultimate predator, dinosaur Tyrannosaurus rex. Its body was a masterpiece of engineering. Thousands of fused osteoderms formed an impenetrable shield, armed with a 100-pound tail club that shattered bone. But this perfect defense carried a fatal paradox. The specialization that made it invincible made its entire lineage. Our focus begins on a stark, digitized interface, where data races across a screen before resolving into the subject file, Dinosaur Ankylosaurus magniventris. The very nomenclature speaks to its essence. The name translates to great-bellied fused lizard. The visual graphic shifts, providing the raw data. This creature belonged firmly to the weight class of heavyweights. We speak not of tonnage casually, but of mass that anchored it to the Cretaceous Earth. Up to 8 tons, a biological presence equivalent to a formidable modern elephant. This incredible creature was fundamentally different from the nimble hunters and the towering browsers. This was a living tank, a machine designed not for the fleeting speed of the chase, but for sheer, immovable endurance. The arena for this ultimate defender was the Hell Creek Formation. Time itself was winding down towards a cataclysm, placing us at 68 million years ago. This landscape was the final, grinding battlefield of the Cretaceous. We see the vast open scrublands stretching towards the ominous horizon, defined by volcanic foothills under a twilight sky of deep purple and orange. The chronicle of this species is sadly fragmented, a puzzle built from bone. The scattered fossil pieces we possess, first unearthed by paleontologist Barnum Brown in 1906, tell us not of a completed animal, but of an anatomical mandate. Yet, the assembled skeleton gleams with a heroic flash of light, revealing the architectural perfection of its design. The world of the dinosaur Ankylosaurus was governed by an ecological upheaval. The towering ancient forests of ferns and cycads from the Jurassic were fading, leaving behind a dying world of brittle leaves and wilting, sickly trees. This was not a slow transition. It was an active, violent angiosperm revolution. A new kind of plant had aggressively taken over the ground. These newcomers were the angiosperms, the flowering plants. They were small, tough, and densely packed with nutrients. Their leaves were waxy and robust. Crucially, they adopted a low profile, growing fast, staying low, and recovering quickly from grazing. This ecological shift was a biological arms race. The slow-moving, large-toothed herbivores of the past struggled against this tough, resilient vegetation. The Angiosperm revolution was an evolutionary weapon that killed off old giants and forged new ones. Survival demanded specialized digestive systems. It demanded powerful, complex jaws. Failing that, it demanded the ability to simply outlast everyone. The dinosaur Ankylosaurus embodied this ultimate mandate. It was built to be inevitable, a slow-moving, heavily armored harvester. Its fighting style was that of an armored ground defense specialist, a selective, low-browsing herbivore. It was a biological fortress designed to thrive in this harsh, new arena. Its ability to methodically mow a wide path through the low-lying plants emphasized its role as a systematic, patient survivor. It found its niche in the scrublands, a testament to its unique evolutionary path. The dinosaur Ankylosaurus belonged firmly to the fighter class, the fortress. This was a character defined by ultimate defense. Its skeletal structure was a masterpiece of biological engineering. Its primary weapon was fundamentally defensive. It was not a tooth or claw, which are often the default weapons of the dinosaur world. It was a shield. Thousands of bony plates, called osteoderms, were fused directly into its skin. This was not just a collection of scales. This was a complete, unified, near impenetrable shell. We look closely at the fossil and see the incredibly dense, pockmarked texture of the bone. The plates were further reinforced with a thick layer of keratin, like a formidable reptilian fingernail that sealed the bone beneath it. These plates were not static. They interlocked seamlessly, flexing like a suit of living chainmail, allowing the 8-ton body to move while maintaining total defensive integrity. Every exposed surface was protected, creating a formidable wall of armor. Even its eyelids possessed this protection, utilizing bony shutters called the palpebral bone that could slide across the eye for instant defense. It could stand perfectly still in the vast open plains, an immovable object, immune to the frantic movements of the quicker animals around it. But a fortress must also have a weapon. The counter-offensive lay in its secondary weapon, the tail club. It was not merely a lump of bone. Its lethality was a result of meticulous engineering. The crucial design element lay in the fusion of the distal vertebrae. The last vertebrae of the tail fused into a rigid rod, a massive, stiff handle supported by heavy tendons. This entire handle acted as a biological catapult, enabling it to swing the two massive knobs of bone at the end. This structure, weighing over 100 pounds, could be swung with terrifying, bone-shattering force. We can simulate the impact in extreme slow motion. The club connecting with the shin of a predator, the shock wave rippling through the flesh, the bone exploding in a shower of fragments. The dinosaur Ankylosaurus used this power in a singular, intelligent, and deeply aggressive tactic. It was a fighter that faced its enemy and then, in a tactical masterstroke, turned away. It presented the attacker with a dilemma: the impenetrable armored flank, forcing them to confront the most powerful weapon, the tail club. Its wide gut, the magniventris, was a testament to its survival efficiency, a massive, complex fermentation tank. This internal processing power, combined with its specialized leaf-shaped teeth for cropping, made it perfectly adapted to digest the tough angiosperms. This was a survival machine built for a low-energy lifestyle, consuming the new arena while defying its dangers. The perfect defense had an ultimate weakness. But every fortress has a weakness, a gap in the armor. For the dinosaur Ankylosaurus, that vulnerability was not found on its body, but in its biological imperative, its young. The greatest struggle this seemingly invincible dinosaur faced was not against a dinosaur T-Rex. It was the biological imperative to create the next generation. The stark, difficult truth was that the armor could not be passed on. It must be grown. When the tiny, newly hatched dinosaur Ankylosaurus emerged, its skin was soft, leathery, and completely unarmored. The eggs themselves were likely soft-shelled, similar to a modern sea turtle's. They were buried in mounds of vegetation for incubation. This entire nesting area was the nest battlefield. The unarmored hatchlings were perfect prey, vulnerable to predators as small and quick as dinosaur Dakotaraptor and the various Cretaceous scavengers. The parents' role became one of tireless, high-investment defense. This was a quality over quantity strategy. The massive, impervious adult body was transformed into a living shield for the future. We see the parent standing sentinel, a mountain of presence, anxiously scanning the surrounding tree line, enduring the constant, low-level threats that dart past. Each hatchling that survived was an immense investment. The juvenile small osteoderms would take years to grow, expand, and interlock into the solid adult shell. It would take years for the tail club to develop, the vertebrae at the tip slowly fusing into that massive, bone-shattering weapon. Until that armor hardened, their survival depended entirely on the shadow of the fortress that gave them life. The defense of the nest was a daily, grinding, desperate vigil. The parents endured the blistering heat of the midday sun and the cold, tense, eerie nights. The parents stood perfectly still, weathering torrential downpours, its massive armored back deflecting the water, perfectly shielding the nest below. An act of enduring, miserable sacrifice. This silent, static presence was their primary deterrent. It was a fight they waged, not with their club, but with their presence. A war of patience, endurance, and sacrifice, this was the true grinding battle for the dinosaur Ankylosaurus lineage. The threat was inevitable. Enter the hunter. The Hell Creek Arena had an apex predator, the towering and terrifying dinosaur Tyrannosaurus Rex. This was the classic confrontation, the ultimate predator versus the ultimate defender. The dinosaur T-Rex had the weapons to win: massive, railroad spike-sized teeth and a bite force that could crush solid bone. But the dinosaur Ankylosaurus had the tactics. It immediately anchored itself to the ground, its body dropping low in a deliberate hunker-down pose. It presented an unsolvable problem. The ultimatum was clear: attack the armor and break your teeth. Attack the tail and have your legs broken. This was not a battle of speed. It was a tactical chess match, a war of patience. The dinosaur T-Rex had to wait for a mistake, a moment to exert its vast strength and flip the 8-ton fortress to expose its soft underbelly. But the Ankylosaurus was an immovable object. When the T-Rex lunged, the fortress would not yield. Fossil evidence confirms this grueling, ancient struggle. Dinosaur T-Rex teeth have been found embedded in armored plates. Skeletons of the predator show healed fractures from massive impacts. Undeniable proof of the defensive power of the tail club. This was a chronicle written in battle scars. The hunter versus the fortress, a stalemate of power and defense. This was a conflict that defined the end of an era. The lineage ended there. Dinosaur Ankylosaurus was the last and largest of its kind. It was the final, perfect evolution of the armored Thyreophorans. A dynasty forged in the Jurassic, a lineage that responded to predatory pressure by becoming a living mountain. Its biological legacy is one of profound specialization. When the asteroid struck, the arena changed forever. The tiny, resilient flowering plants survived. But the fortresses that fed on them and the hunters that stalked them did not. Its chronicle is a lesson in evolutionary paradox. The fortress it built to ensure its survival was the very thing that guaranteed its extinction in a new world. It was a masterpiece of defense, made obsolete by the cosmos. For you, is the legacy of Dinosaur Ankylosaurus the weapons it carried, the nest it protected, or the resolute, unyielding struggle it endured? Whose survival chronicle should we reconstruct next? Nominate a new paleontological record in the comments.